Welcome back, beautiful people. This is episode 85 of An Untold Narrative, where we host guests from all around the world from different creative backgrounds, whether they are in art, photography, design. I bring on people that I meet through the internet, and today's guest fits that bill perfectly. We have Daniel Cocking of LacelessDesign and Laceless Talent. Daniel, what's up? Where are you? How are you?
I'm great, David. Thank you very much for having me. It's a real privilege to speak and be part of your platform and your community. I'm in Glasgow, in Scotland, in the UK, representing footwear here in Glasgow.
I had no idea. So I thought you were I knew you were from the UK, but I thought traditional England, UK, not Scotland. You're definitely our first Scottish guest. So thank you for joining us.
Brilliant. You know what? There's actually a surprising amount of Scottish people in footwear. So
wait, really? Oh, that's amazing. I'm super happy to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the show. You obviously have a very unique background. Talk about kind of your upbringing. Like you obviously said you're from Glasgow. Are you born and raised there and you just never left? Kind of talk about how was your upbringing? You know, what type of life did you live kind of growing up into trying to find a career path?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was brought up in the north of Scotland, so mountains, outdoors. Pretty great childhood, I would say. Like my parents were very open, let me do what I needed to do. I was that kid that was going out making dents and being creative, being outdoors. So I think that set the stage for everything in terms of what I've done in the future. I've always felt released and free to try new things. But yeah, I think grew up in the north of Scotland, Inverness, for those that know, Loch Ness, maybe for those that don't know, Loch Ness Monster, that sort of thing. And then through school, and then went into university, I think is maybe the best segue into the footwear area. I did mechanical engineering. I'm an engineer that started out really throughout my course. All my classmates were loving engineering and related to oil and gas industry. That's big in Scotland. Or a lot of people would do Formula One cars or automotive industry. That was the big output from our university. And to be honest, I chose mechanical engineering because my pals were there. And that was it, really. My friends were there. It's as simple as that, you know. I was all right at physics and maths. To be honest, my passion was PE, but I didn't know that was a career, you know, at that point. Went into uni because my pals were there, and noticed that all my classmates were loving oil and gas, Formula One. It just wasn't for me. I didn't like it at all. I was doing okay, but I didn't like it at all. So actually, within the first year, I already said to the careers advisor, I want out. This is not for me. I want out. I want to go and do sports science. That's more up my street. Spoke to him for about a year, and said, right, that's it. It's over. I've actually applied. I've got accepted into another course. I'm moving. And after speaking to him for a year, he eventually, at that conversation, pulled a shoe out of his bag and said, before you do this move, and he pulled out an Adidas. And he says, my son, he works for Adidas, and he was an engineer in this course. And then he went and did product development in Adidas. And then, he explained the job, and I was like, oh my days, that's exactly what I want to do. That's spot on. He takes engineering and applies it into product, and a product that he loves. I was also that kid that'd be sitting in class, drawing football boots, drawing Predator Manias in his workbook, workbook. So I just didn't know it was a career. And then this guy described the career, and then that was it. I was headstrong, saying that's exactly what I want to do. I want to do shoe engineering. I guess what it was.
Do you think I know nothing of Scotland, so I apologize for my naivete. But I assume it because it's small. I was born in Poland, and it's similar, right? There's only a handful of Polish footwear designers out there. There's really not a lot, but it's because the country doesn't really have a ton of creativity in my perspective, and they don't show you all the different opportunities that are actually in the world. And so do you find that that was similar in Scotland, where if it wasn't for this professor to show you this and really blow your mind, that you could have just been stuck doing a job that you don't like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's part of that for sure. It's like, and also what the industry of your country is. You know, Scotland is oil and gas. That's its industry on the most part, engineering driven oil and gas. Footwear is not a thing. I've met, since being back in Glasgow, I've met one other person that's in footwear, and I'm on the search. Like I want close footwear friendships here in Glasgow, but it's just not the case. Everybody that has gone into the footwear industry, and like I said, there's a lot of Scottish people that's gone into the footwear industry. They're in Adi, they're in Nike, they're abroad, you know. So people had to go out of Scotland to find that. But maybe one day, you know, I'll be able to.
I was just about
Scotland and, you know, bring.
I was just about to ask you. Do you think that there is an opportunity for you to really create a hub and like an epicenter in Glasgow? Because obviously Glasgow's is it the capital? Is it the major city there in Scotland? Like
it's the biggest city. It's not the capital.
So like that's kind of cool, right? Like it's an opportunity to create, you know, something really special around footwear and this unique, you know, ecosystem in your own country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into my background from a professional perspective, but in one of the moves that I made, I set up what I know to be the first footwear design studio in Glasgow, which is
that's amazing. Super cool.
That's cool. It's like amazing to speak about, you know, and there's only 4 of us, you know, we just you're in a little space in Glasgow, but we all knew that we were the only ones.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, honestly, being the first at anything in 2023, I think you should be super proud of that, because it's very, very rare, because there's too many people doing too many things these days. So let's go back a little bit. So you had that conversation with your professor. He opened the doors to, you know, product design in footwear specifically. What year was that when you were studying engineering? Was that first, second, you know, kind of how far along were you?
Yeah, it was the end of the first year. Yeah, it was the end of the first year. And then, like I say, my grades were okay, but it got a lot better after I knew what I was going to do. After I knew I had an end goal of where I was going to go, they got a lot better. And so between, in Scotland, you do second, third, fourth, and then you're in. So I did second, third. At the end of the third year, I did an internship with Adidas. And that's really was the opportunity that I needed to showcase what I could do and explore the industry. And that was my in. And then from there, like, it just kind of went and what greater education
did you
could have.
Did you have to go to Germany for that internship? How was talk about that experience, because a lot of the listeners obviously of an Untold Narrative are footwear designers, just because, you know, that's kind of my background and a lot of, you know, the people that are within my ecosystem. But like, not everybody gets a chance to, one, go abroad for an internship, right? But then 2, work for, let's call them one of the legacy brands, Nike, Adidas, Puma, whatever. So what was that experience like? How long was it? You know, what did you take away? Like, was there like a key learning for you? And you know, whether this was like, yes, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, or, ooh, I like this, but I want to do it my way, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when I went, I was naive, like, for sure. I was naive. Even to the point of, like, I think, to skip to the end, I think my learning was how lucky I was. But going into that, I was like, they said, all right, you could have an internship here. They usually run for 6 months. And I said at that time, oh, actually, the summer is only, 3.5 months. Could I do it for 3.5 months? And it's like, who's asking that question? You get a chance to do a 6 month internship. You do it, no? But I asked that question. He was 3.5 months. Can we do that? And he was like, yeah, we can do that. And to this day, like I was in Adidas for almost 10 years. I've never seen anyone do an internship that's less than 6 months, like that's an exceptional case. So I was very lucky, I would say, to get in the door. That was a very naive question to ask, but I did it. And I was in the tennis team at that time, so I got given a project to that point. Tennis players were really leaning into using sliding movements as part of their movement, and they wanted to understand that movement in greater depth. So my study was working with the futures team of Adidas, the innovation team, and working with the engineers there to test different rubber compounds to understand the traction elements of that, and then integrate that into design. So work that with the design team to help them translate that into something that the tennis players could use to define the optimum.
Wow, that's a
for players. So
that's a crazy first project.
Yeah, it's a very cool first project, and I think going back to how lucky I was, to work with the futures team. That's connection point number one. To work with the design team, connection point number two. Marketing team were very involved. Connection point number three. As an intern,
crazy.
I was spread to every team possible, right? So in terms of luck, if you need it, I got it.
Did that, whatever your discovery or your work, end up coming out into the market for you?
Yeah, learnings of. I don't think you would have a direct translation. Mine was an engineer's solution. So design, translate that, interpret that. But yeah, it did. And I was able to take that project and carry it on in my fourth year of university and do that as part of my fourth year study. So I was able to kind of continue it or validate it with athletes. So yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, that's
went into product.
Talk about maybe luck, maybe not luck, but what a really special time for you, because internships are really hit or miss a lot of the time. So that's amazing. I'm glad you shared that. And then you said something really interesting. You said you were at Adidas for. Sorry, a bunch of motorcycles just went by. Hopefully you didn't hear that. You said you were at Adidas for 10 years, and so you went you did the internship. You go back to university. You finished university, and what did you do after that? Did you go back to Adidas?
So the day before my final exam in university, I got a phone call from this unknown number. Picked it up. It was somebody from Adidas, right? And they said, "Hey, so and so. You remember me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And he was like, "We've just got this opportunity in China." And yeah, exactly, right. And he said, "Do you know anything about China?" I went, "Nah, not really." And he says, "Do you know anything about Fuzhou in China?" Which is like middle of nowhere, China, right? I think a lot of people understand or know where Fuzhou is, right? And I was like, "No, not at all. Never heard of it." And he's like, "Well, we've got this opening. It's in the futures team. It's in China, and I need you to make a decision by the end of this week, and you need to be out there in 3 weeks." And I'm pacing up the university.
Holy shit!
Like pacing up and down, just like holy crap! Like, what do I do? Like, I'm calling my parents saying, like, should I do this? My dad's like, yeah, go for it. My mom's like, definitely not. And of course, right? It's like I'm the youngest son, I'm their baby. But in the end, I went, you know what? Like, just gotta go for it. You gotta take these opportunities. I went for it, and I still remember that feeling when I touched down. You don't have time to think. I was studying for exams, right? And then you finish exams, and then you're there. I touched down in Guangzhou before. I had a couple of weeks in Guangzhou first, and then I just had this feeling, like almost like a heart-sinking moment, like, what the hell have I just done? I'm here, and the contract's 2 years, and I'm looking around, and it's like, I don't know anything about this place, and you're getting that feeling, and you don't know what you've done. But then, as soon as you're into it, you're just like the learning. If anyone has the opportunity to go and work in Asia, learning is exponential. That's what it is. The longer you stay, the more you learn, and it's exponential. You really get into the depth of product creation, how it's made, how shoes are built, what can be done, what can't be done, why it can't be done, the nuances, the kind of secret understanding of how sourcing really works, and how to get your designs translated into real product. I think that's some of the biggest things that you learn in Asia. But yeah, what an amazing,
Wow.
incredible experience. Still think of it. It feels
The
like a dream.
the guts on you, man. I always take a little bit of a risk and a gamble when I bring on guests onto the show when I've never met or talked to them before. And then you drop this bomb of an experience on us, and it's really special. Like that seriously takes, a lot, and good for you, man. That I think we have a little bit of a problem right now with footwear design specifically. I'll speak, to my area of expertise, is like people aren't going over to Asia. They're not seeing how product is made. They're not seeing all the different micro steps in the process. And there's this massive gap of experience right now in the industry because nobody's going over there. Nobody's being on the factory floors. And so, yourself, myself, we're fortunate to have those experiences, but what a crazy experience.
Yeah, COVID hasn't helped with that really. Teams have been creating now for a few years and they've not been traveling. A lot of teams are just getting their first Asia trips back now. These young designers just entering the industry, they haven't had that experience yet. It's a shame because it's like those early Asia trips as a young creative, like they were the funnest, like they were the things that brought you the most joy, it's like that's the memory that like I really have of those early days is like after coming back from China, having lived there, but going then back again, but frequently for development trips. Those are the kind of like joyous.
So you spoke of that 2-year window. When was that?
2012 till 2014. I had a really open brief. Like I was in the Adidas innovation team from the sourcing side. So they would throw concepts at me and say, go make it happen. And then leave me for a few weeks to go and figure it out with the team, One's like, I think maybe to talk about a physical example is like the Adizero 99 grams, so the lightest football boot on the market. Right? And it was brilliant brief because it's just like make a football boot as light as you possibly can, and it's like you're creating a boot and then you're like cutting away some tiny component, you're remeasuring it and going, great, we saved 0.2 grams, superb, right, next. And it's like those incremental gains, like really incremental gains. They were the best, and that was my focus project. I also did things like spring blades, support the basketball team, and
wow. I mean, that's so wild. Good for you. Like, so you had the 2-year contract. Did you fall in love with Asia living lifestyle? Did you want to stay longer? I know I've had a former guest on who, is also an expat from the United States, but he fell in love and he's staying the rest of his life, he said. So I assume now you're back in Scotland, so that wasn't the case. But talk about your kind of experience living there outside of work.
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I got involved in a rugby team, and played a bit of rugby in Scotland, but I was always too small. But out in China, like you're one of the big guys, you get to choose your position, So, got involved with that sort of group of expats, and Fuzhou is a small expat community, so you kind of know everybody. And it's fun, like got to travel around lots of different parts of Asia. For me, like I know a lot of people that have stayed as well, like and, they love it, and Asia life is great; it can be great. And for me, it always had a time limit to it. I always knew that I wanted to. I guess from a professional level, I wanted to go beyond sourcing, but from a personal level as well, I'm married now, I've got 2 young kids, and it's somehow easier. And
totally. So you moved back to Scotland in 2014, 2015, let's call it.
No, moved to Germany. So at the end of my time in Asia, kind of had 2 options. One in Germany, running in Adidas running, and then an almost certain offer in Adidas Portland. So I had the choice, Germany, Portland. Running team at the time were just like smashing it, absolutely killing it. So that's 2014.
Right.
Boost is coming out 2015. Energy Boost was around like 13, wasn't it? So like they just wanted Boost, I guess that's it, right? So Boost was hitting down, and a lot of opportunity. Great team, like that team at that point, Adidas running team at that era was absolutely phenomenal. So super inspirational guys, lots of mentors within that team, lots of people to learn from. So I went there, Adidas running for a couple of years, brilliant projects there too. Like actually, this one, 3D printed future craft shoe. What a project to be on. Was involved some of the models of Ultra Boost, not the first one, but the second and third. So that was dead cool. So yeah, opportunity to be in really big projects and work with incredible people.
Wow.
Really
I mean, so every step of the way, you've really just had these amazing projects and people around you to really like rocket ship your career.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate. And yeah, I mean, I always feel like you can only go as far as what the people you work for push you. So I've just been fortunate. Certainly in the early stages, I've been fortunate to have incredible mentors as bosses. And then in the later stage of my career, I've been quite purposeful. I've learned that in being selective in who you work with.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the people around you at work are the most important, right? You see them more than your wife and kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the people around you are super important. The teams are really important. That's what makes it. You forget sometimes it's what these people.
Yeah. No, and brands forget that too, unfortunately. But what out of all the years you worked for Addy and your professional career, what did you have like one shining moment that you like think back on and you're like, holy fuck, I can't believe I got to be part of that? Yeah,
that one.
The 4D.
Yeah, the first 3D printed. Yeah, so it was a Futurecraft series, right? So the first 3D printed running shoe, and it was as simple as going to one of these supplier fairs and Materialize 3D print company. They had one of these cubes, right? Like this 3D printed cube, and then us in the design team were like, "You could put that in the midsole, I reckon." So we did. We came back and we were like, gave it to the 3D guy, and was like, fill it with this lattice structure, and then we were like, press print, let's do it. 2-3 weeks later, had the sample in my hand, went out for a run in it myself. First sample made my feet bleed. Second sample, we were like, we're pretty close here, and then that was that. But I mean, that's pretty extraordinary. Like, to have a first.
Again, it's a consistent theme here. You're just chipping away at doing first in your lifetime here.
I would not purposefully, fortunately, I would say, I've just been blessed, I've been very fortunate. And it's the people around me.
Yeah. So what's really amazing, Daniel, is one, we've never spoken, but two, like, you're known for the guy behind LacelessDesign, which is obviously like a platform where you elevate other creatives and showcase their work, primarily on Instagram. I assume you do it on other platforms, but I have no idea, to be honest. At what point did you go from? Do you do that full time? Do you like when did you transform your professional career from Adidas to like doing this? Do you do it full time? Do you do it part time? Do you have a professional job on the side? Like, I have no idea.
So I mean, bounced around different categories in Adidas, running as much as I could, and then got an opportunity to come back to the UK, and a UK fashion brand called Six Silk wanted to start internal footwear business. That was a footwear studio that was based out of Glasgow. Set up a team for them, and then it was only middle of last summer that I decided to go full time with Laceless. So Laceless was like passion project for years, probably from those early running days, actually. It kind of stemmed from, as a developer, I love working with designers. It's my favorite thing, right? I'm inspired by designers, right? So as a developer, you just see all these amazing ideas come past your desk, but you know how it is a brand. Like, ideas don't always make it for whatever reason, right? Somebody somewhere decides it's not for them. So it's a shame, really. Like, as a developer, you're like, man, that's such a cool idea. I want to go make that, you know? And so it stemmed out of that, and it was like, well, how can we have a platform that can showcase and share ideas, or and have a community that inspires one another, so that we don't lose any great ideas. So that's when we started kind of simply just reposting designs on Instagram. There's great ideas. That's the filter. It's not a good render. It's a great idea. That's the filter for the posts. Still is. And soon enough, you know, people started commenting, engaging, and we were like, oh, we've got some form of community here. So we started doing competitions for them, and those competitions went down well. And then, as I say, like, it's been on the side for many years. And in the middle of last year, I looked at it and said, like, I really want to do this full time. I'm going to see if we can make this happen. So it still is somewhat of an experiment to make this, a full-time initiative. But so far, it's like super exciting.
That's congratulations, first and foremost. Obviously, for anybody who's in footwear design, specifically follows Laceless, because the goal is to get featured. It's similar to, you know, I was coming out of college in 2013-14, where, you know, Concept Kicks, you know, was really putting people on in a similar fashion. And, like, you know, there was a handful of these platforms, which the goal was to spotlight young and up and coming designers. Right. And so what's really interesting about what you're doing is, even most recently with Laceless Talent, you're spotlighting, you know, new job postings, and you're trying to connect the dots and be this bridge, which brands actually struggle with. Which is super fun to watch from my perspective. I'm not looking for a job, but it's fun to watch from the background. And is that a way that you're trying to monetize this? Like, at some point you got to make money, right? Like, how are you looking at it from a business perspective?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think initially from a what brings meaning perspective, I looked at it, right, and I was like, well, what kind of gives me meaning? That's going to be the thing that keeps it going. And I love creating opportunity, trying to inspire some creativity. So I was like, well, how can we create a business model behind that? At the same time, like, my wife was a recruiter at Adidas, and we looked at it together. I'm looking at her job. She's looking at Laceless, and we're like, this is an incredible talent pool. Like, what could we do here? Like, and at the same time with that, we put out a couple of polls. Like, it's very open source. Everything that we do is super open source and transparent. And we asked what the key needs are in the community. And I love so many people are just struggling to get into the industry. And having been somebody that's been so lucky to get my ins, you know, you kind of want to pass it on. And so we're like, well, how can we meaningfully connect designers to brands? How can we give and create opportunities and create that connection point? So, jobs board, that costs us money, doesn't make us money, but there's other models behind that is more similar to a recruitment agency, where it's like contingency fees, where we replace designers for brands. So you can create business models behind. So
is your wife a partner in this with you? Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yes, she is. Yeah. So she came in as well. Yeah. At the moment, we've got 2 young kids, so she's the wisdom and the guidance. I'm the workhorse, because I can put the hours in.
Oh my God, that's awesome. What's your goal with it? Right? Like, if you had to, like, summarize that in a few sentences or a paragraph, like, what's your mission and what's your goal with it?
I think the mission is to empower and connect designers. I think that's the mission. If you were to break that down into a revenue structure, it's to operate like a recruitment agency and connect designers to brands, both in permanent and freelance.
Are you finding that young designers are sending Laceless DMs or emails and being like, hey, like I'm really struggling to get a job. Can you help me out? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And then the reverse side is that you're getting brands who are like, hey, I'm struggling to find a specific type of creative to fit our business, and they're reaching out to you.
Yeah. Yeah, the design world's changing, right? A lot, right? So, I mean, you know it, right? Like you got 3D design entering the game. I mean, you got AI design now entering the game. It's like the design world's changing. At the same time, if you step into a brand, you still got, the old school way of making, which is still valid, and still very, very important in my eyes. But you've got, I think the big thing is, it used to be, certainly when I entered the industry, you'll have your designer that can kind of do everything. And now the whole thing's been fragmented into every sort of designer, and you've got every sort of niche, that's a struggle for brands, a real struggle. At the same time, you've got remote working entering the game. You've got like 60% of non-freelancers want to be freelance now. You've got freelance entering the game. How does that change the dynamics of a company? So all of that is very difficult for a brand to keep hold of and manage. At the same time as that, to pile on top of that is, brands struggle to meaningfully connect with people they want to work with. Like there's a serious lack of authenticity sometimes, where we can be that bridge, we can be that voice, we can help brands understand.
You're a footwear design matchmaker.
Exactly.
Yo, like Tinder.
Yeah.
That's
Tinder,
amazing. I love that.
I like it.
I honestly think it's a more catchy kind of perspective. That's so cool. I'm super pumped. Like, obviously still within more or less a year into it. You have a lot of growth ahead of you. Is there anything is there a message you'd want to give to anybody listening to this or myself? Like, how can we help, right? Like, you're just on your infancy journey right now, and you're trying to grow this baby into something bigger and better. And, how can people help?
I mean, I think from your audience is often designers or freelance designers or designers of all sorts, I'd imagine. And we're developing a talent pool, which is a simple login and a simple upload portfolio. And that allows us to, when a brand comes and says, hey, we need to create a niche talent pipeline or whatever, we can quickly find those people. So I would say one thing that could be really helpful for us is to join that talent pool. And hopefully, in return, I mean, that's eventually helpful for the people.
Amazing. Why don't you go ahead and plug your what is it, website, or obviously LacelessDesign on Instagram, but where can people submit and create a portfolio and add it to that talent pool?
I mean, they can go on LacelessDesign.com and then there's a button.
Amazing. Is there one question I wanted to ask you is, like, you obviously have this, now that I know and now that you've shared it to the world, this amazing history of experience within the footwear world. Is there a reason, or have you been more thoughtful of not showcasing your past projects and stuff like that, but rather letting Laceless as a platform speak on behalf of you? Do you like kind of being behind the scenes? Because some people showing their work and being very forward, but it seems like you take kind of more of a kind of a hidden role in all of it.
Sort of multiple reasons for it. I think One reason is it goes back to it gives you personal meaning, right? And say, for me, it's like creating opportunity. And that's for others, I should say. I get real joy from that. It really, really excites me. So I think there's that element. I think the other side of things is we're trying to build something that doesn't depend on me. So if I'm the face for it, then it depends on me, you know. And we want this to be a community-led initiative. And yeah, I mean, communities often need some sort of figurehead or steering face or whatever. But I think in this particular case, we want the community to lead this one, and we don't want it to be dependent on Dan Cocking or Dan Cocking.
Well,
it's limited, it's finite, right? I think what I can do is finite, but what the community does is, look, if you look at it, it's incredible.
I think you're absolutely.
It's a far more impactful story, I would say. Than
no, I love that perspective. That's very, very beautifully said. But it's good to know that there is whoever is behind Laceless Design. Just know you're in good hands, and you have a ton of amazing experience. Dan, this has been a lot of fun. I really didn't know what to expect going into this episode. Speaking to you, but I'm very, very rejuvenated, and I'm stoked, and I'm very, very excited for the future of Laceless. One of the closing traditions that we have on this podcast is I like to ask people to share and give flowers to somebody who has really helped them out, because hopefully people understand that we don't get to where we are without other people's support. We have these, key moments in our lives, key people in our lives. Who's somebody that you'd want to give flowers to and who's helped you along your way?
I think, I listened to your previous podcast from Celine. I thought it was brilliant, by the way. So I knew the question was coming. I also listened to the one from Omar. Actually, what I thought to say was actually I wanted to give flowers. I will give an individual person, but what I would say is I wanted to give flowers to all those guys who are starting something. All those people starting businesses or starting ideas or landing their dreams, or just trying to they gave it this moment. It's me as well, and said, I've been thinking about this for a long time. Now's the time I'm going to do it. There's a lot of those people right now, whether it's going freelance or it's landing an idea that they've had or starting a brand, or there's a lot of those people and they're just hustling right now. And it's a lot of hard work. It really is. And I just want to be like, kudos, well done, that's worth it. You look back on that when you're old and go, that was a brilliant time. Success or failure. They'll be like, that'll be a brilliant time. So I guess there's kudos there. And yeah, to an individual person who's certainly helped me in recent months with Laceless and how we can define and refine the community going forward, it would be Tom Rushbrook, somebody who actually I haven't known for that long of a time, maybe 4 or 5 months. He's an ex-Nike Puma kind of senior director, designer, very, very strong voice, but a powerful voice to me and how Laceless can be.
Wow,
going.
That's I love both those answers. Thank you for giving it a broader one and an individual one. Daniel, this has been incredible again. Thank you so much for your time. I know it's late on a Sunday in the UK. In Scotland, I'm stoked to check off another country from another guest on this podcast. 85 episodes in, I'm still never surprised by the guesses, or I'm always surprised by the guesses and their stories. So thank you for sharing your experience with us and the audience today.
No, thank you. And thank you for what you're doing. Your platform, your podcast is really inspiring.
I appreciate that a lot.
For sure.